Welcome. My name is Carol Carter, and I am the founder and CEO of Global Minded. We are all about creating a capable, diverse talent pipeline to get more women, students of color, underrepresented, and first generation to college students into the completion pipeline, employment pipeline, and leadership pipeline. So we welcome all of you today, and it's my great pleasure to turn this over to Dr. Ryan Ross. This is the second in a series of higher education sessions that he's leading called Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. And we're just delighted today to have college presidents to share their input.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the second Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable Conversations, a higher education series. I am delighted to be back talking with you. And today we get to talk with some amazing college presidents from around the country. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about the first 6 weeks of school, leadership, and much more. But we only have an hour, so we're just going to jump right in, and we're going to get our panelists introduced. And so we're just going to go around very quickly and have them introduce themselves so you can get more acquainted, and we're going to jump right in. So we'll start with Dr. J.
Hi, this is President Javaune Adams-Gaston from Norfolk State University. We're in Norfolk, Virginia, and we are really happy to be here. I think that this is an important conversation, and I look forward to being able to participate.
Thank you, Dr. J. Dr. Craig.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Brent Crite. I'm the president of Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, Florida. But just a year and a half ago was in the city of Denver with my friends and colleagues, Carol Carter and Dr. Ryan Ross, and moved about as far on the academic and cultural and economic spectrum from the University of Denver to Bethune-Cookman as was possible, and did that intentionally, and very glad to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Dr. Davis.
Dr. Miles Davis, president of Linfield University with campuses in McMinnville, Oregon and Portland, Oregon. I get to represent the Great Pacific Northwest. Glad to be on this call with so many colleagues who I'm meeting for the first time and hearing a broad breadth of important conversations about what we're doing, and also maybe share what we could be doing.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annette Parker, and I am president of South Central College with 2 campuses in Faribault and North Mankato, Minnesota. We're part of the Minnesota State System of Colleges and Universities. South Central College is a 2-year community and technical college. And I'm looking forward to sharing what we've learned and then what I can learn from my colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Dr. Torrance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Michael Torrance, Tennessee Board of Regents Institution, Motlow State Community College, where I'm the president, and a disciple of Dr. Annette Parker. So she said everything that I would say. We are a 2-year institution in the state of Tennessee, 5 campus locations, 11 counties, 4,500 square miles, and one of the fastest growing post-secondary institutions in the nation. Pleased to be here with everyone. Good to see you all.
Like I said, since we only have an hour, we're going to jump right in. And so the first question is really about excellence in leadership. You know, excellence, which shouldn't be confused ever with perfection, is really critical right now. Lots of decisions have to be made. Lots of strategy has to happen. What have you done since the announcement of COVID to strive for operational excellence and get your schools up and running to serve students?
You know, I'll jump in, Ryan. First, let me say that I happen to be in Tennessee, in Nashville, close to my good friend, Dr. Torrance, when all of this stuff broke out. And I was there to celebrate a wedding for my daughter, and I realized that I needed to get back to Minnesota as quick as I could to manage our institution. And so, like everyone else, it was a little chaotic right at first. And what I set up 2 goals for our institution. One was the safety, health, and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff. And I made that #1 priority. And then the second priority was to ensure that that we provided every opportunity possible for our students to complete their courses. And so one of the things that we did after we set those two priorities was to bring all of the campus online. Every Wednesday, I have what you call a Safe Campus Zoom meeting with the entire faculty and staff. And we talk about how we're operationalizing our safety procedures and protocols. Everyone's weighing in. And just that meeting, about 2/3 of the campus is participating because they want that information. They want to understand how to support our students and how to stay safe. And so I'll stop with that, but that has been something very powerful for South Central College to get input from the entire campus about how we go forward.
Thank you.
And I'll just follow up on that and just say that it's really important to have the input of the campus and for campus members to really know and believe that their voices matter. I was very fortunate because I had our chief of police and our head of our student health service who in February started having conversations with me about this, what was seeming to be coming forward as an issue. And so that led us to create a task force across the university. So every level of individual was included in this task force so that we could hear the voices, but also make good decisions. So it was, pivoting very quickly from being in person to being online, and then also being able to have this task force, which continues today, and it's 10 subcommittees, and it's faculty, staff, students, everybody engaged in how do we do the work that we need to do in an effective way where people can know and be a part of what needs to transpire in order for us to be successful.
If I may, Dr. Ross, I want to extend the conversation a little bit beyond what's already been responded to. One of the things that I became very much aware of at Linfield is that we provide more than education. We are a large social service agency. The inequities in our society are actually minimized to a large degree when students are on campus, because everybody on campus has access to 3 meals a day. Everybody on campus has access to the internet. Everybody on campus has access to computers. That does not happen when they go home. And so on March 13th in Oregon, when the governor issued her executive order, we hesitated. We were the last private institution to send students home, and we are doing in-person classes now because I think sometimes in higher education circles, we forget why we really exist and that we exist for the sake of students and moving them forward. And so that's where we've devoted a lot of time and attention as to how do we serve our students in this period of transition, what there is and what, not only what they've lost, but what can they gain within this context of a learning, and what do we provide for them, not just in classroom or education, but in their maturation process.
So I'll chime in, Dr. Ross, with what is taking place in Tennessee. So largely we have had as much autonomy as you could possibly have as an institution of higher ed in the state. And with that autonomy, a focus obviously on safety, health, and wellness. But in addition to the mental health issues and challenges that you may not have been aware of that may be systemic and also that are in response to or an outcome of COVID. So those single faculty or single employees that we have, the students who we know had made decisions about how they would continue to attend school when we rolled from face-to-face to 100% online within 10 days. So during Dr. Parker's visit, our school was actually on the tail end of its spring break. So getting our faculty to come back in and get prepared to deliver content in a way that a lot of them had not been prepared beforehand. So upskilling everybody and moving from face-to-face brick and mortar to online with minimal training. And one of the things that has come out of the conversations is, did we even have the conversations with students to let them know and ask, are you prepared to move in this paradigm shift? And that's what we've learned. And to prepare for that moving forward, making sure that we do include, as Dr. J has mentioned, that student voice, because they need agency along this process as well. Additionally, tying ourselves to our local health agencies, creating councils that had never been created before, and in some instances, giving voice to people who may have felt that they didn't have a voice at our institution, whether it be from the facilities persons up through the office of the president, that we all need to engage in dialogue and defining what's going to be best to keep us, I'd like to say, we are more safe than going to Walmart if you would come to our campus right now with the things we put in place.
Thank you. Dr. Davis and Dr. Torrance, you guys said a couple of things that's given me a follow-up question. Colleges do provide more than just education, right? There's meals, there's services and things like that. So presidents, as it relates to students with disabilities who seen and unseen, who need different types of technology or different types of services, and then just student life in general, all the student service programming that's happened, what have you had to do to shift there to make sure that those things happen, or what kinds of things have you talked about or done as it relates to student activities and events and engaging students outside of the classroom? I think, Brent, Dr. Kreitz, you might be on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Ross, you hit on an important point, and the comments were made earlier about how our institutions provide more than just an educational environment for our students. Look, our university serves a highly vulnerable student population. I mean, we have kids 90% Pell eligible. Our kids come from marginalized, vulnerable backgrounds, so this has been particularly challenging for them. So whether it's students with disability or students who come from homes with trauma and violence, those who don't have internet access, those who needed, even in the best of times, support and counseling, our focus on their well-being has really been, I think, in this time, for us, exemplary. We had suicide last week, one of our students. We know that mental health issues are particularly pernicious now for students, particularly poor students of color. And so we have had to reframe virtually every aspect of our outreach and our support. And we've had to reframe the lens through which we look at student support and come up with more creative means to engage them in ways that are meaningful and sustainable. So this has, one, revealed our capacity to pivot and respond, but two, is a stark reminder at this particular time in this nation's evolution of the critical role and importance that all of our institutions assume in sustaining these students just beyond the educational benefits.
And Dr. Kreitz, I am so sorry for the loss of your student. I know how difficult that is, and our prayers and thoughts are with you. I've been in higher education for well over 30 years, and I was a practicing psychologist for many years, so I do not practice currently. And what I will tell you is our students are high need. And so when you talk about students who have special needs or disabilities, the number one disability typically nationally is mental health disability. And I think most people don't recognize that. They think of some of the other disabilities, all of which are important, and we address all of those. But sometimes the mental health component is the hidden disability. Students are reluctant often to come and get help. They're often reluctant to tell people they're in pain. And we know that in the African American community in particular, at this time, for our young people who are college age, they are one of the most vulnerable populations for mental health issues. And so we need to go to them. We can't wait for them to come to us. We need to do outreach while they're away. Many of them are in difficult situations in their homes. They're in difficult situations because they're on campus and not, quite used to campus being what it is today. So therapy is really, really important for all of us. Reaching out to students if they're living on your campus, having your residence hall folks reach out to them. I always talk about that 10 to 20% who don't present themselves but are high need. And so if we can do that, that is helpful. And then we provide all of the other services that help students who have needs to have specialized support for their internet or for their virtual learning, issues of mobility. All of those things have to be accounted for. And we're that place. I agree with the earlier comments that we're not just higher education. We're educating whole people, and in so doing, there are so many components that we're responsible for that it goes unseen to most of the world, but it is critical to their success.
I would just like to share that at South Central College, we're a commuter campus, and the average age of my students are 26. A lot of my diverse students are Somali New Americans, and they have issues around just poverty, employment gaps. So there's opportunity gaps for them that may not be in the majority community. So what we did about 4 years ago was we joined Achieving the Dream. So we're an Achieving the Dream school, and we set up strategies to close the achievement gap and understand the disparities that our students have. And I think that those have just been even more revealed during the pandemic, okay? Food insecurity, mental health, financial literacy, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things we had done that I'm very thankful for prior to the pandemic is we became a hunger-free campus. And we have a coat closet, and we have mental health coaches that the students ask for. So, and then we do a community service integration where our coaches connect our students to 501c3s that support them in various ways, whether it's domestic abuse, any type of mental health, coaching, food insecurity, clothing insecurity, et cetera, et cetera. And so, once the pandemic hit, then they all had to go home, and they're raising their kids at home, and they're educating their kids at home at the same time, where they may not have the broadband access, they may not have the computer technology. So we then made sure that everyone had computers, and that if they needed a modem, they could have a modem to take home with them. We set up Wi-Fi in our parking lots, and kept the labs, the computer labs open all the time for the students as well. So those were almost all of the services online. Well, there were other services, but they could come in and use the computer lab if they didn't have access to it. So when you came to South Central College in the early stages, you were met by 2 robots with one of our staff talking to you through the robot, and you would come and pick up your dinner, your meal, packaged for you and your entire family during that process. And so we've really done a lot to make sure they have food and other services.
One of the things that is jumping out to me is something that sometimes we don't get credit for in higher education because we sometimes move slower. But COVID has definitely created the space for us to be nimble, to move faster, and you guys, what I'm hearing is a lot of innovation. And so, can you talk a little bit about just some of those decisions, some of the things you now learned, or different attitudes you might have about how we approach this work based on what you've been able to accomplish because we had to due to the challenges of COVID.
Dr.
Go ahead,
Ross,
Dr. Davis.
I want to jump in here for a second, and only because I love having this group of people on the call because they represent very different backgrounds. So for those of you who do not know, Linfield College became Linfield University July 1st. It was a traditional four-year liberal arts institution with all that that implies, including it did not necessarily believe, I'll put it this way, as an institution believe in online education. It was the student faculty experience that was important. And that is still important in this environment, but what it also showed that we have to be flexible in all things that we do, and that we have to be aware of different modalities of delivery. And quite frankly, I have to give credit to our faculty who, we gave them a week, we added a week on to spring break to transfer over to this new world. And this is an institution with 162-year-old history that wanted no parts of this and said, okay, now you have to do it. And they did it, and they're doing the best. And then what we're also seeing is the use of hybrids and use of things that adapt and that are relevant to our students. And so Dr. Ross, these things are not, groundbreaking things, but innovation is relevant to the institution. And so it allowed Linfield to move forward in a way and to consider possibilities that it had not had before. So like, for instance, now we added a Master of Science in Nursing, which is an online program that 3 years ago would not have even been considered. And so it's allowing institutions to rethink what it is that they did and to adapt and say, okay, what is our core that we're involved with? And then how can we build and what can we learn from that? And I'll just end on this one note, if I can, Dr. Ross. Yes. One of the things that is innovative is the student experience. And I keep coming back to this because what I'm finding is that even this morning, and I don't know too many young people who do this, but I'm normally at the gym at 6:30 in the morning, and people are coming up to me, the young people in the gym this morning saying, thank you for being open. Young people want to be in community. And so even with the fact that we've had to postpone sports, we have to do things that build intentional communities. And we have to give more attention to the student experience because quite frankly, for institutions like Linfield, that is what we're key for. That is what we're charging for. That is what our tuition base is that you're coming here to be on this 193-acre campus and you're looking for an experience that is different. So one of the things that I'm becoming very much aware of is something that we often don't like to talk about within higher education because we like to pretend that we're really not a business, we're something different and special. And but look, if I got to pay bills, I got to pay salaries and everything, we're a business. Is that we have to pay attention to our value proposition. What is it that you're getting when you come to our institution that differentiates it from everybody else? And the answer is not to compete on price. And I'll stop there.
Well, I want to jump in with a context associated with Dr. Davis, Dr. Ross. When we think about the answer to this, and this is my overarching research question for the rest of my life, I believe, how does the vertical integration of technology improve the human condition? So this concept of utilizing emergent tech along with existing tech, such as hybrid, asynchronous, and synchronous learning, but to move beyond the concept of in rural areas where you have quote unquote hollers, where there's limited or to no broadband access, to going to some examples that have already been listed, creating parking lot spaces that are utilized not just for our students, but accessibility points for our communities, specifically that moniker of community college. So for us, the innovation component, teaching, innovation, learning, and training tilt. So we want people to lean into us, create spaces that are applicable, and allow people to utilize themselves for business and industry creation. So we utilize a space called a collab space. And as we've given food, shelter, clothing, et cetera, we also want to create an opportunity for people to build business out of this mess that we've been in. And it goes beyond COVID to the social unrest that we're experiencing, so that people could look at themselves and say, what skill set do I have? I sew, I'll make some masks. What entity could I create, whether it was selling lollipops, shaved ice in the South, or other things where people could drive by. So we also created some things that I think will be low tech, not just training our full faculty to convert online in a week. It's amazing and Herculean what they did, but also pop-up shops. So those tents where students could drive through, pick up Wi-Fi, pick up a laptop, pick up some device of some note to utilize for their own self-efficacy, to be disconnected or to create connection in this type of environment early on was very, very difficult. And, I'm an example of that. Full family. However, when I would see my 12-year-old and my 21-year-old, they don't want to hang out with dad. They don't want to talk to dad. They want to engage in Fortnite. They want to engage in their social media. I think they call it the gram. I'm not cool enough to know that I know it's Instagram, but they call it the gram. They wanted to engage in those spaces and try to create the appropriate ways to stay connected. That's been really important to people in our communities, I'm sure everywhere else.
So we've talked a lot about shifting in COVID and students, and in Colorado, in the Colorado Community College system where I work, we're 13 colleges and 14 if you add our system, and 125,000 students across the state. And the shift for us, like you, required our faculty and staff to make a lot of very fast, quick decisions, a lot of movements, and just a lot of moving parts. And one thing that we really had to stop and focus on was our people, was our human capital. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you had to do or think about in terms of just taking care of your faculty and staff and making sure that in addition to all that they had to learn and shift to do, that they weren't getting burnt out, or if they were getting burnt out, just some of the things that you've done to take care of your team?
Well, I will start back and explain a little bit more around what we were doing with Safe Campus. And so we have several teams set up that's working and focusing on the safety, health, and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff, and how our college can continue teaching. And so we created some websites that's right on our front page, SCC Keep Learning, SCC Keep Teaching, and Safe Campus. And so through that, we meet almost every Wednesday. Initially, it was every Wednesday. We're now every other Wednesday, where the entire faculty and staff are online. And as we're discussing and sharing our plans for how we reopen, and to give them an opportunity to weigh in to those subjects, to be able to write in the chat and us then record the session, copy all of the comments from the chat, and if we can't respond to it during that 90-minute session, to respond to it in writing and put it out on the SharePoint site for everyone to see. It just helped everybody understand that we were concerned about their safety and health. And I've had to make some tough decisions. There's 3 doors between the 2 campuses that people can enter in, because we're under one roof at both campuses. And, we've caught people not following the rules. And I've had to share with them that, through my staff or otherwise, that, that you broke the rules, but we're looking out for your safety and health. And to your point, you just, Dr. Ryan, you just had your son, was it?
Yeah,
Give you a hug.
He just
right?
got out of school for today.
And so when I have a couple hundred people, on my screen on Wednesday, and I see their kids, I see the drawings on the wall, we see pets, and we all talk about that, it's been something really helpful in bonding about those relationships and just seeing the faces. So before the meeting gets started, we chat like we did today. And it's brought about a sense of community. And really, I really think now I'm trying to figure out, how do I continue this after COVID? Because it's better than walking the halls and seeing people when I can gather them all together and we discuss how we're going forward as an institution.
At Norfolk State University, and I have to concur with you totally, we talk about having a culture of care, and that everyone on the campus is responsible for the members of the community, whether they are our campus community or our adjoining community. And so, you know, I've done Zoom calls with the faculty, with the deans, with the students, with the staff, and then we did town halls. What I found is over communicating is probably our best ally, because in the absence of information, people make it up. So we want them to know what's happening. We want them to be engaged in what's happening. And we want them to be responsible and responsive to one another. We know that many of our staff are running on fumes at this point. So I always say, I start with my executive staff and say, self-care and family care. That really comes first, because if they're burned out, they're not going to be useful to us. And I want them to, you know, sort of have that as the way we do business. And as we have gone through this COVID thing, where it's difficult, it's really hard for people. You know, there are people who have many people in their house. There are people who have nobody in their house. It's difficult for across the board for people to feel connected. You know, even the young people who are used to connecting through their devices are now finding out that's not enough. And so how do we help all of them feel that they're valued, know that they're valued, and get some self-care so that they can be their best selves? We've asked a lot from everybody on our campus, everybody in our community. And so we're very aware of that and trying to celebrate and support people as they make some choices about taking care is really important to us.
So, you know, with the exception of Dr. Cright, who I have the privilege of having a relationship with, this is the first time I've got to meet the rest of the presidents. And so in preparing for today, you know, like a good facilitator should, I reached out to people who work for you and just asked a couple of questions. And I asked two questions, just kind of who you were and what they thought about you. And one theme came back, which is very similar to the two folks that I report to, Dr. Landon Furious, who is our Vice Chancellor, and Joe Garcia, who's our Chancellor. And what that was your work ethic and your commitment to making sure that everybody's okay. And I want to commend you for that. But what I want to ask is something that sometimes we often forget when we're in leadership roles, is as you guys are taking care of everything, making these tough decisions, working 5, 6 in the morning till I don't even know if you guys are even getting off right now because all the things that are happening. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Right? Like, what are you doing to ensure that you have the strength to run around? And what kind of advice would you give to folks who are running the same kind of schedules or faced with many of the same types of choices and challenges you guys are faced with every day?
Hey, Dr. Ross, that's a really important question, and probably deserves a much more eloquent response than I have. Let me start with, I am mindful of this. I am in fact conscious of it. The stress of this role at this point is really quite substantial. And so for me, there is an intentionality to get a little more balance. For me, I schedule in gym time. You know, it's scheduled in along with meetings on a regular basis. I have committed to trying to. I mean, I'm in Florida, and so I've got to get out and play a little golf You'd think it'd be easy, but it hasn't been, but I hope that will change. But the key for me is to be mindful and intentional. And for me, meditation is involved, reading, certain kinds of readings. Old philosophers seem to help calm me. Keeping mindful of the reality that we're in and our role and obligation in it. And so as much as we have to care for our students and our faculty and our staff and our institutions and maintaining a relationship with our boards and our stakeholders and our alumni and our family, very often we come last. And I appreciate that. But if we don't change that, then we're not going to be around or any good to anyone. And so I've really tried to live that a little more effectively. I'm not quite there yet, but we're moving in the right direction. So that's a really important question.
Could I add on to what the dear brother Dr. Brent said, is that one of the things I've also found important, which is very easy to get away from, and is that we need to take care of our families. And so while we're experiencing stress and tension and challenges, even though we try to do our best to shield the significant people in our lives, our spouses, our partners, our children, people we're from, that they know that we're going through this. And so one of the things that I've tried to consciously focus on is to make sure that I have dedicated time to them. It is very easy, as you all know, this is a 24/7 job. And I can forever stay on my phone or laptop. So as well as taking care of myself, and Dr. Brent, I actually have to let you know that I actually am doing doubles. I work out in the morning, then go to martial arts in the evening so I can beat up on things and I don't get arrested for them. But we also have to, to have time for our families, and that they get our attention, that they get a chance to be with us. We need some of you, I know where some of you are. Letitia, I think you came off of mute. But we need time to get away from the bubble. So just for those of you who do not know Oregon, definitely don't know McMinnville in Portland, Oregon, McMinnville is the whitest state in the United States. Portland is the whitest major city in the United States. So everybody knows me, even if they don't know me, they think they know me, because I'm the one black guy that they get to see. But I need, so I need to go to a place where I'm not recognized, because I can't go to dinner in this town without, I'm the president, and I'm president of the university in the town. So I have to find a space that I can just sit and enjoy the company of my family without being the president. I just want to emphasize that.
One of the things that I think I'm very blessed to have is I have a really strong cabinet. And through this process, once we got things in place, we decided that between all of the deans and all of the vice presidents, that we would have what we call an administrator on campus. And so during the summer months, I was on campus every other Friday. Between all the deans and the VPs. And so we did that to make sure that we could all, rejuvenate ourselves. We cover each other. It's just been a blessing to do that. And so we make sure that we have a full life. I talk about 360 degrees. You're not going to be a good administrator if you don't have a good life, if you're not healthy, if you don't have a good family life. And so we support that with all of our administrative team. I get up every morning and I used to think I didn't have time to do this, but during COVID, I started walking every day, and I started at 2 miles a day. Now I'm at 5 miles a day. and just to have some music on and to walk, make that walk every day has been, a relief. And then I can come back and I'm not in a chair all day on Zoom. And so that's been helpful as well.
I'm a prayer and meditation person. And so every day, no matter what, at the first part of my day is always to do my meditation and prayer, because that centers me as a person. So even if I think I don't have time for it, it doesn't matter. I'm still doing it. And if it means I can't make something when I thought I would, I'm still going to do that, because that's critical for me. What else has happened is, my family is very, very important to me. And my husband and I have decided, because we live on the campus, we walk the campus in the evening. And it's been good. When COVID first started, there was nobody on campus. So we just walk and then come back. And now there's students around, there's faculty around, and we bump into people. And it's been good for us, because I've just been here a little over a year. So it lets people get to know me, but more importantly, it lets me get to know people. And we're not doing a walk race. We're just kind of strolling. But it's been very, very helpful. Now, I will tell you, when it got as hot as it gets in the summer in Norfolk, we didn't do that, okay? But other than that, we tend to walk.
Dr. Ross, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of reassessing what's important. And prior to this, I would consider it an interruption, or not a bother, but an interruption. If I was asked, past 6 o'clock, hey, we need help with this, or can you run to the store for that? I no longer look at those things or consider them as interruptions. And like my colleagues, I've regressed. I went back to wanting to get in better shape, because I needed to do that to optimize my ability to serve, right? Because again, if you're not healthy, you can't help anybody else. So I've lost about 67 pounds since we started this. I started walking on April 1st. And it's amazing that you can still get work done. I'm not going to say I'm not working. I'm working. I'm walking, but I'm texting or I'm sending emails. But I'm also listening to Frankie Beverly and Mays. I went back to things that my mom and my dad played when I was a kid. Listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Soulful music, and it's allowed me to reconnect with my benchmark values that you do your best to live and pass on every day. But it also has made me more connected to my family than I have been in the last several years, because I know 2 speeds: run and run faster. So we've been able to have better balance. And I can say, in spite of all of this, I think that I'm more adroit at what I get to do every day versus just trying to churn things out. So I'm appreciative of the ability and the opportunity to slow down to a degree and focus on some other things.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's just really powerful. And it's so important. And it's often the last thing we think about when you subscribe to servant leadership like you all do. I want to shift gears a little bit, right? Because we've been talking about the pandemic, but the reality is that there's 2 pandemics going on, and one would argue that the other pandemic's been going on since 1619. So there's a lot of social unrest. There's a lot of social justice conversations, a lot of things that are happening in society, and concern and challenges. And so just thinking about just some of the racial tension and social unrest, how has that affected campus? Has it affected any of your decision making in terms of what you champion, what you talk about, or anything as it relates to just how that's important and how it shows up on your campuses?
So, Dr. Ross, for those of you that don't know, Bethune-Cookman, along with Norfolk State, is a historically Black college university. We are a founding member of the United Negro College Fund, UNCF, so this is an iconic sort of brand. And you also have to keep in mind that the University of Denver, where I was the dean of the business school before I got here, is a white, privileged, wealthy, pristine, expensive institution. And this is none of those. It is hard for me to imagine, candidly, being at the University of Denver at this time. Being here, representing an institution and institutions like it that are, in my view, the tip of the spear in terms of affirming America's moral conscience at this time is especially critical. For me, the combined devastating effects of COVID, which is disproportionately impacting our community, the economic fallout from that, 80 million folks who had to apply for unemployment, the debilitating animus and vitriol politically has reminded me of what a blessing it is to be here. It's hard, it's harder, I think. And one specific thing that I'm pleased about is that the community is taking note of who we are and what we do, and we are finally beginning to get some traction in terms of understanding what we contribute and engaging in dialogues that are difficult, really difficult, utterly important, and timely. And so, it's all just added to the mix, Ryan, of challenging every ounce of leadership acumen that we all possess. And I have appreciated the opportunity to rise to the occasion in that sense.
Like Dr. Cright, I came from a PWI. I was senior vice president at the Ohio State University and had a great opportunity. I've always been in public institutions, but largely large, very large PWIs. And it has been so, I feel really fortunate in this part of my career to be at NHBCU, particularly at Norfolk State University, because we're right down the road when you talk about 1619 from where the first slave was brought to America at Fort Monroe. And so we did our last year, we did a whole series on 1619 and the 400 years of slavery, and 400 years since African Americans first arrived on this land as slaves. And so what I think we're taking away as a university, and we're doing things that we haven't had the opportunity to do before, to begin the conversations, to have broader conversations. So this coming Saturday, we will have the U.S. senatorial debate. And that's the first time it's ever been on an HBCU campus here in Virginia. And we're really so excited because a big part of that conversation is the racial injustice, the issues that are happening in the country, and the response to those things. So I'm just very excited that we're getting to have the opportunity to bring those things to our campus and to bring people to our campus, even though a lot of this will be streamed because of COVID, but to bring people to our campus who may never have been on this campus before. It's a beautiful campus, 135 acres of just splendor. And people don't know that this wonderful gem is right here. Well, they know it's here, but they haven't come to it. And we want to invite them in because we want to keep having the conversations. But there's one other thing that I want to say, which is we talk a lot about how our students are processing some of this experience, but we should talk also to our faculty and staff members who are also struggling through these traumatic, just sort of piling up issues of death and destruction, and ways that people are responding to some of these very, very tragic and difficult behaviors that have occurred and that have led to deaths of African Americans. And so we really, really have to remember that our entire community, no matter where you are, no matter what kind of institution you're in, your entire community is processing this and they need support. They need some place to talk about it.
So Dr. Adams-Gaston and Dr. Creed, I'm going to go the 180 out because I am at that PWI. Did I mention I was in Oregon? Did I tell you that? Okay, all right, I mentioned I was in Oregon. And so for the record, there are no Black faculty at Linfield University. There are no Black administrators. There might be one or two Black people here who work for Sodexo in the food services. I mentioned that to you for two reasons. And you did say, Carol Carter, that we have to get uncomfortable situations. You said that this is what this is about. So let me address this, and hopefully I won't get in too much trouble because I know it's being recorded. And I know people who work at my institution are on this call, but you know, you got to speak the truth and shame the devil. So the reality is you have a lot of well-meaning people who do a good job of talking about things, but are very reluctant to change anything. Expressions of sympathy and solidarity, which are very seldom followed up with real concrete actions to represent the issues that are at stake. I'll pause there on that one. The other thing is that I find myself doing double duty. Let me be clear. You know, Linfield's about 2,000 students, so what you're paying for in a small private education is access. But I have to do double duty because for the Black students who are here, I'm the only person that they come to. So I get more direct communication, and I don't mind. You know, I give it, but this is a thing that impacts all through higher education when you're one of the only, and I'm sure that Dr. P can speak about that University of Denver, is that you're doing double duty. Your duty trying to serve students is that you spend a lot of time talking to them. And so yes, and of course I have to be a resource to students who don't look like me, but I'm the only resource offered for students who do look like me. And so these are the things that I wish that we would engage in. And you're absolutely right, Dr. Adams-Gaston, because I had a student break down in my office because in his social media class, they asked him to access YouTube videos. All the videos that came up, I don't know what the exact assignment was of Black men being murdered. Mm. And he had to get up out of the class and leave in not the most gentlest way. And so in other institutions, then that student gets written up as being disruptive, as opposed to dealing with the fact that he's being traumatized. And that needs somebody to understand it. So I think that we in higher education, particularly those of us who are at institutions where our students don't have any place to turn, we have to be there for them. Because we can't see our job as being administrators, or we can't even see our job as being teachers, that we are nurturers. We have to care for them. And even, you don't have to look like them, but you have to display compassion to them and understand that just because they're acting different than everybody else, you don't know what's going on inside their head and heart and what they're dealing with. I'll stop right there before I get wound up about this. But this is a very real issue that Carol and others that I'm finding being at a predominantly white institution around these issues.
And let me just say, Dr. Davis, you really got me to thinking. I just started July 1, my 8th year at South Central, and Dr. Torrance knows some of the torment that I went through in the early days to be here 8 years now. And when I came in, there were no Black faculty, and there were probably 3 employees, 2 running a TRIO grant. You know, makes sense, right? And then 1 other employee. Now my cabinet is 50% Black, and we've made, and we have a equity and some affirmative action goals that we've made some great strides with this institution. We're in Red America. My campuses, one's in a purple community and the other one's crimson red. And yet the employers and the community members really, really support me. You know, when I was having a hard time back 5-6 years ago, the governor stood behind me, my legislators stood behind me, and the community in general, and they spoke out. And now this institution's been able to move forward. But, you know, I'd walk out of my office and the African-American students would see me and just smile. You know, I was somebody that looked like them, and I knew that they needed the support. And to your point, I think that some of our faculty and staff want to do the right thing, but they really don't know how. And so that's really why I went into some of the Achieving a Dream efforts that we have to close the achievement gap, talk about equity, really lay out the issues. And with what happened in Minneapolis, you know, it's time for me to be really bold about it. My director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, he's from the neighborhood that burnt down in Minneapolis. And I saw how that impacted him and our students. Our students were up there protesting. And I just decided that our diversity and equity and inclusion plan was not bold enough. We've been doing things to support African-American males, but not writing it down. And now it's defined that we're going to support African-American males. They're the most at-risk population we have.
You know, oh man, this is hitting me on so many levels. And I just really quickly want to say it's not only students, Dr. Parker, who are African-American and see you and smile. I am an aspiring African-American president, and I am smiling to be on this panel with all of you. You know, we just didn't have enough time today to go as far as I would have liked to. And so at the, you know, at putting you guys on the spot a little, would you guys be willing to come back and do a part 2 of this series next month if we can find 1 hour to finish this conversation? I don't feel like I can move this series along any further unless we come back together one more time.
Count me
Absolutely.
Count me in.
Count me in.
Awesome. So next month, everybody, tell your friends. We're going to be back with this tremendous group of 5 presidents. One of the things that I do believe in is respecting people's time, and we are right at 3 o'clock. Please email Global Minded or put in the chats really quick any comments that you have. And I just again want to say thank you for tuning into this series. Thank you all for caring about equity. I know you do because you're here. Thank you to our esteemed guests. And to close us out, I'd like to turn it back over to Carol Carter of Global Minded. And the one last thing before I do that is I just want to give a special shout out and thank you to the Colorado Community College system, who is also on our own very intentional and serious equity journey. And so for those of you who are on the call, I think I see my colleague Stacey Amaya, who's just doing tremendous work. I want to say thank you all. Carol?
Thank you so much, Ryan. And this was a fantastic panel, and I'm so glad we're going to have a part 2. And I think maybe in the part 2, we just put out there what are the boldest things that each of you believe need to be happening, and we just take it from that lens, because this is the time where we have to really shift in a different way. So anybody who's still on, though, if you want to go ahead and write your questions in the chat. We do an extensive follow-up with Ryan to all the people who registered, and we will include some links and maybe some other resources that were requested in Ryan's first session last month. So we want to have all of you know that you're a really critical part of this dialogue, and we want to be able to hear from you as well. So we also have a student speak report that was just published last week, and many of your students were interviewed in that with Every Learner Everywhere and Dr. Nita Mosby-Tyler, and that is something that is in the chat as well. So we'll be sure to include that. And thanks again just to all of you. I feel incredibly inspired to spend the last hour with you, and just appreciate Dr. Ryan really leading the charge with these get comfortable being uncomfortable conversations and actions that are going to result from this. So thanks to all of you, and we'll have the recording in the follow-up that goes to everybody who signed up, so you can share it with your colleagues. And if you all are part of the Global Minded newsletter, The recording link will be published tomorrow in the newsletter. And our next session is Monday with Dr. Monique Butler, who's an amazing African-American leader, and 5 other health experts, all of color, talking about the social determinants and a lot of the factors that thread through the issues that you all raised today. So thanks so much, everybody. You did an amazing job, and we'll see you the last week of October, probably the last Tuesday of October. I think this is a good time slot to stick with. So thanks again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for facilitating, Dr. Ross.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we see you in a month.
Absolutely. I'll be back. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Right on.